In the last 5 years or so, we've seen more and more first-person shooter games that replicate the playstyle and sometimes even visuals of classic FPS games, such as Doom and Quake, referred to as boomer shooters. But before this recent rise in popularity, there were other games that tried to take the genre back to the old school, including a Cyberpunk themed one. Released in 2011, Hard Reset is a cyberpunk first-person boomer shooter developed by the Polish studio Flying Wild Hog, better known for developing the Shadow Warrior reboot series. The gameplay draws inspiration from classic shooter games such as Doom, Quake, Serious Sam, Shadow Warrior, and Unreal, while the story and the setting draw inspiration from the works of Philip K. Dick, William Gibson, and Neil Stephenson. Players take control of Major James Fletcher, a member of the CON, an armed forces division of a mysterious institution known only as the Corporation, as he attempts to save the city of Bezoar from the machines attacking it. In this world, Omega ChatGPT, the exterior AI, went rogue and formed a council of the super cool AIs, and they decided to take over the world by building an army of Clankers to fight the humans. After the AIs nearly wiped out the weakness of the Flash, some quadrillionaires, the corporation, decided that they should store millions of human consciousness in a data bank to create Turbo Grok Sanctuary, and use it to destroy the legions of OpenAI. However, they kinda left a tiny, almost unreadable footnote in their contract to save humanity that their hearts went out for the human race, so their so-called sanctuary was also going to be used to dominate humanity as well. Oops. Major James Fletcher is a cyber schizophrenic who has the ability to download as many personalities as possible inside his head without using ad blockers. And he is deployed as the first responder to stop a machine attack and preventing them from taking over the city of Bezoar. However, he quickly learns that things are more complicated than they might have seemed at first. Hard Reset is a boomer shooter through and through. It has no aiming downsides, a fast-moving character, hordes of enemies that try to swarm the player, health bars and armor bars, health, armor, and ammo packs found throughout the level, secrets, linear level designs, puzzles required to advance some areas, and so on. However, differently from classic shooters, the player is only given 2 weapons, the CON firearm and the energy weapon. You get 8 guns for the price of 2. The CON firearm is a cheap, reliable rifle that can be easily upgraded into 4 different fire modes: machine gun, shotgun, grenade, and RPG. All you need to do is get an upgrade token and an exchange in your nearest gun-o-matic. Then you can hit one of the 4 switches in it and bam, new gun. Oh, that's incredible! But that's not all. When buying a CON firearm, you also get a free energy weapon. Forget the outdated days of bullets, this gun fires energy at your enemies. They won't even know what hit them. Wow, that's so cool! And just like the CON firearm, this bad boy has switches that can turn it into different guns: blaster, ray gun, explosive, and railgun. Wow, my very own railgun! I thought only the military could afford these! Not anymore! With the energy gun, anyone can have access to a railgun. And remember, you can get one of these for free when acquiring your very own CON firearm for the low price of $9.99. Get one now at your nearest gun-o-matic. Clearly, the choice of having 2 guns act as 8 different guns was a way for Flying Wild Hog to not waste their limited time and resources of a small studio and still deliver their first game. But the problem with the system is that it feels a little inconvenient when you swap the weapons. Many times after using the railgun, I pulled the CON firearm expecting it to be in shotgun mode, only for it to be in RPG mode and vice versa. Also, I feel like the shotgun not being a baseline fire mode for the CLN firearm was a mistake. There is something about it that just clicks with the game style, and the rifle, not so much. First impressions are important for games, and I feel like the rifle makes the first minutes of the game feel a lot more boring than it really is. One thing that this game has that is a very clear modern shooter trait is the sprint button. Now, I wouldn't mind it at all if it didn't turn your screen into one of the most nauseating sights possible. I don't know why they thought just distorting the screen like this with so much motion blur was a good idea when sprinting, but I guess it did help the boomer shooter style after all, as seeing this effect once made me want to never press this button again. Besides the game only having 2 weapons, there are other signs that this game was made on a low budget. The first one being the low enemy type variety. The ones that the game has are fine, but at a certain point in the story you will notice that most of the new enemies are just recolors of something that you already have seen, like these fridge guys. The second are the cutscenes that play before missions. They are still images drawn in comic style, which is a creative way of circumventing the lack of resources, but this factor is still noticeable in some panels. Whoever was the poor soul that had to draw these clearly had to cut some corners to meet the deadlines. Also, the voice acting is indubitably amateurish.
You sick fuck! You let the machines in!
The third sign is that the campaign is very short. It takes around 4 to 6 hours to beat it, and mind you that out of these hours at least 1 to 2 are part of the game's DLC story that picks up on the ending of the base game campaign. Hard Reset Cyberpunk setting is more on the side of don't tell, show it. While the game does have story segments that technically explain what is going on, they feel disjointed and skip some of the important questions. However, you can find clues around the maps that show you the signs of the lifestyle and how things work in this dystopic setting. Don't get me wrong, I appreciate that the game doesn't try to explain everything. I don't need to hear about how the universe started when a pragmatic stellar god from far wrote galactic metaphors on Mars, and a drop of his nut sweat fell from the sky and sprung life into the mythical land of who the fuck knows, creating the first being, the almighty Lord Nutsuker, who rose to the top of Mount Kun and jumped. His blood splattered across the land and became all that we know. But it also would be nice if the story explored a bit more of the world instead of feeling like it's desperately trying to progress into the next segment. But the one thing that really disappointed me was that the game didn't explore the idea that Fletcher could hear the voices of the multiple personalities he carries with him. That detail is just mentioned during a story segment and the gameplay never really gives a hint of it. It's a shame because that would make the protagonist feel a little less bland than he is. Hard Reset was the first game by Flying Wild Hog Studios, and because of that, like mentioned before, some of the aspects were severely simplified to make the game a reality. However, despite the clear cutting of corners that the game had, the studio still promised that the game would shake the first-person shooter development scene, which obviously it didn't. Hard Reset is a competent boomer shooter, but it doesn't really do anything impressive. So selling a game like that comes out as extremely arrogant, nearing Daikatana levels of marketing. So needless to say that didn't contribute to the game's reception, and combine that with the fact that the release build could be beaten in about 3 hours, and you can tell that this game was definitely not the masterpiece that it promised itself to be. The game's limited budget, its simplicity, being released during an era where the FPS genre dominated the gaming market with big names nearly monopolizing the genre, and the developer's cocky attitude made Hard Reset go almost unnoticed, causing it to fall into the realm of forgotten games. Despite its flaws, Hard Reset is a fun boomer shooter that is worth checking out for those who are fans of FPS games or the cyberpunk genre. While it might not have lived up to the promise of the developers of shaking up the FPS scene, it offers a decently fun experience for a low price, while not requiring a huge time investment to beat it. If you liked the video, please like, subscribe and leave a comment. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.